Daliso Chaponda, a stand-up comedian who, in normal life, would be performing all around the world in comedy clubs and theaters. Because of the coronavirus, I have no audience. So instead, I perform to the people of Facebook, to the people of YouTube, to the people of wherever you may be watching me. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you are watching this, welcome. Today, over the course of the day, I took suggestions from people on Facebook, on Twitter and Instagram, and I have written jokes. All right, I've written jokes based on their suggestions, and essentially, I am here. I'm here to entertain you. So, please, if you are able to see me, please write a comment just so that I can see that I am broadcasting, and then I will get the show started. So if you're on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitch, please message me just right now so that I see that we are broadcasting. Is anybody there? You know what? Why am I even asking? Because even if there's nobody there, I will still entertain you. I will still do the jokes. Today we have suggestions, which I am going to make jokes about. The suggestions include positive friends, slave children, American protesting, baking, DIY, TikTok racists, Trump versus Iran, saying hi wearing a mask, living dangerously, and campaign promises. I will do the first 5 jokes. Then there will be a little intermission where I talk to the people in the chat. I say hello. If you've got any questions, that's when I'll answer them. So just list your questions, put lots of question marks after any questions so that when I'm sweeping through all the comments, I can see them jump out very easily. And also be very aware, this is me performing with no live audience. So please, if you enjoy a show, please put some feedback in it, right? Put some LOLs, put some smiley faces, put some comments just so that I know what you're liking when I look at it later and when I look at it in the interval. But without further ado, let's get started. First, let me just say hello to the people in the chat room. Hello to Mac. Hello to Ledua. Hello to Michaela. Hello to everybody. Glad you are watching. Okay, let's get started with the suggestions. First up, ladies and gentlemen, we have got a suggestion. Oh no, I forgot to mention. Anybody who's not watched the show before knows that I begin this show with an old joke, right? I do an old joke just to get started because comedy has a rhythm. And without an audience, it's very hard to get into your comedy rhythm of setup, punchline. So I always do an old joke sort of to kick me into gear, and then I do the new joke. So the first joke about positive friends is actually an old joke, which I wrote for... I think I wrote it for What the African Said, but I don't think I did it on What the African Said. If any of you have watched my What the African Said special, after I do the joke, tell me if I did put it on the special. Because if I didn't, I've got an extra joke which I can include in my next special. So this is my old joke. It's about how I've decided I need to cut off some of my friends. I do. Because I think we all have a few friends who are too positive. You know what I mean? Your friend who's always at the gym, always eating healthy. Every time you meet this friend, you feel like crap. You're like, oh, I'm such an overweight bastard. Oh, I'm such a failure. Your friend who's always getting promoted. I need to get rid of these self-righteous bastards and replace them with crackheads. Because wouldn't it be great to have a crackhead friend when you're having a tough day at work? You come home, you've got a headache, you just call crackhead Dave and you're like, hey, Dave. I had a tough day. What did you do? And he's like, I needed money. I sucked a dick. No matter what was going on in your life, you'd be like, I am not doing so bad. I'm going to call you again tomorrow, Dave. So that's the old joke. Now let's get started with the suggestion. The first suggestion was from @Nganga Gitao. I may have said your name wrong. @Nganga Gitao asked me for a joke about slave children who have forgotten the things that were horrible that their parents endured, right? So now this is actually a very complicated subject you've given me, Nganga, because I know what you're talking about. And I actually think there are two sides. So I'm going to do jokes from both sides of it. Because the first side of it is, yes, if you are someone from an older generation, I'm going to expand it beyond just slavery, right? Because all of us have not gone through the stuff which our parents or grandparents went through. Like, I'm Malawian, we weren't slaves as it is, but we went through colonialism. So my parents and my grandparents went through versions of racism and oppression, which I can't even imagine, right? So we all have people who have gone before us who have endured more than us, right? So the one side of this is for those people who are alive, right? Who went through real shit, right? People who endured actual racism, being kicked at, being spat on, people who endured real oppression. And this is beyond just race. Like, let's say you are a woman, right? And you were, like, you know, working in the 50s when you had to deal with some next level sexism, right? Not pinching of your butt, like legit people, like you were daily in fear of being attacked. Like, if you had to live through that, there is a level where all of these elders will listen to young people complain about microaggressions and get really pissed off. Can you imagine? You're on a bus, you're someone who was beaten up by 3 white people because you're black, and you're listening to some young guy talk about how, oh, I was so triggered because that guy, he said, he called me black, right? You know what he meant. Or I'm so triggered because, you know, when I came in, he walked and he moved to the other side. That's so prejudicial, right? So when you are listening to people of this age talk about their problems, it must be truly infuriating, right? But that's the one side of it, right? But the other side of it is, as much as I can say that, right? As much as I can say that, if you are suffering now, it doesn't help you in any way to think about how it could be worse. Like, never has the thought, well, at least I'm not a slave, ever made me feel better. You know what I mean? If I go for an audition, right, and I don't get the role because there was only one black part and the black part went to Lenny Henry, right? I get upset. It's not going to cheer me up to be like, at least I'm not a slave, right? It doesn't matter what has gone before, you still feel suffering. The one bit of advice I can give people is don't complain to older people, because they've probably been through a more crazy version of it. So if you're young and you're going through racism, complain to your own friends. Don't complain to your elders who will look at you and say, you think that's racism, right? And similarly, if you're an older person and you hear young people going on about their very mild racism, don't get angry. Look at it as a success, right? You think they're spoiled brats? It's because you succeeded. The world has moved forward. Don't resent the fact that the world is better than what you grew up with. In fact, if anything, I hope that my grandchildren have such a low level of racism that they get triggered by, like, you know, matchsticks. Oh, matchsticks why is the black bit longer than the bit which isn't black? You know? That's where I hope we get to. So that's my first little suggestion. It was longer than most because it's quite a complicated topic which you brought up. Okay, the next one was at Keeley Evans, wanted a joke about the Americans protesting. So this is an ongoing story, which I'm sure some of you have seen. Loads of Americans are protesting the lockdowns, right? So it's not a thing which is being run by the government as a whole at large, like Trump. Each individual governor is deciding for their state, right? And the people who are in states where there's a very severe lockdown are losing their minds. They're going on the streets, they're screaming, they're yelling, they're saying this is unacceptable. They're gathering, probably spreading the coronavirus as they protest it, right? And they are so incensed. Like, they keep saying, oh, stuff like, lockdown is threatening our civil liberties. And I'm like, you know, this lockdown is aimed at saving your lives. You know what else threatens civil liberties? Death! Yeah, death really kind of ruins your civil liberties. Also, it's such a short thing. Like, we don't know how long it's going to be, but like, Are you sure you should be taking it so seriously? When it's like 30 days, when it's like a 60-day lockdown, what are their chances? What do we want? Death. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Death. When do we want it? Now. It just seems to me that they're comparing themselves. It's back to the comparisons I was talking about in my previous joke, right? Because a lot of these people are strolling the streets and saying, we refuse to give up our civil liberties. This is tyranny. This is tyranny. This is like Nazi Germany. This is like Stalin's Russia. And I'm like, whoa. You are using the wrong comparison, because I guarantee you when Stalin was sending people to gulags, it was not to save their lives, right? So finally, I just think if you think being stuck at home is like being in a concentration camp, how shit is your house, man? How ugly is your wife if you would rather be anywhere but home? Guys, as yet, it's 30 to 60 days of being highly uncomfortable. Who knows how long it's going to last, but it's a little early to start doing the Nazi and Gulag comparisons. Okay, the next suggestion is from @Lucy Ellen. @Lucy Ellen suggested a joke about baking. So, like everybody else in lockdown, right? We are trying to gain skills which we don't have. A lot of people in the UK are trying to bake, right? People who have no business baking. Right now, there's so many baking mishaps around the UK that it's not the Great British Bake Off. It's the Great British Burn Off. That's what's going on. And I'm not proud. I'm going to admit it. I tried to make cookies. And the monstrosities I discovered, they were so horrible, what I baked, that even the Cookie Monster would have none of it. He'd fling them into my face and say, see, it's for cookie, but those are not cookies. I don't know how my Cookie Monster voice was. I didn't get a lot of time to practice it. If I was going to do television, I'd probably spend like 2 hours practicing a voice before I do it. That's how you roll. The next suggestion is also from Lucy Ellen. Why am I doing 2 suggestions from Lucy Ellen? Well, actually, she has a radio show and might feature one of my jokes on it. So she asked for 2 subjects and one of them will make the radio. You are watching me live, so you get the bonus of seeing both jokes. Okay, so @Lucy Ellen also asked me for a joke about DIY, do it yourself during Corona. Now, if you're like me, you've probably complained loads about plumbers and handymen over the years, carpenters saying, oh, they overcharge us. They never do their work in the time they say they're going to do it. But now that I have to do it all myself, oh my Lord, I wish they were available. I don't care if I have to overpay them. The bar for which one has to fix something has really gone down in my flat, right? In normal times, I used to call about anything. Let's say my door was squeaking. I would call the building maintenance and say, somebody come oil my door, right? No matter what was going on, I would call. Now, the door could be like on one hinge, about to fall off. And I'll be like, I think it'll last 2 more days, right? If there is a pipe leaking, I am not doing anything about it until it is Niagara Falls, right? I need like an eruption of water before I make any changes, right? Oh, and there are also some things in my flat which I have just had to give up and admit are broken beyond repair. Like my heart. I don't think I'll ever love again. Oh, Lord. Excellent, excellent. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is the first 5 jokes. We are going to take a short interval where I'll drink some water and I'll take a look at the comments. So, if you have any questions, now is the time. Give me a second. Okay. Okay, excellent, excellent. Let's see how you're all doing. Thank you so many people for being here, whatever platform you are watching from. Hello, Lisa Hackett. Hello, hello, hello. Excellent. Andrea Palmer, you dressed up like a clown earlier and started singing. I am so glad you did. I hope it entertained you to no end. Excellent. How are we doing? Stanley Thompson says, hello, you think I'm funny? You came to see me at Manchester at the Lowry and you've never laughed so much in your whole life. Well, Stanley, if it was the last time I did the Lowry, you actually were lucky enough to watch my last live performance, because that was my last theater show before lockdown. So I'm glad you enjoyed it. How are you doing? Yes, ha ha ha. Lenny Henry, you want death, says HAOS 98. Are you in America? HAOS 98. Excellent. Glad you're enjoying it. Glad you're all laughing. So good, so good, so good. Oh, and you're very welcome, Michaela Evans, for doing the joke, which you asked for. Excellent. I'm entertaining myself during lockdown. Benjamin Babbitt says, how am I entertaining myself during lockdown other than this show? Well, two things. First one is I'm reading a lot. So I'm reading a lot of good books. I'm writing my own book. And that's pretty much my main thing is I read, I write this, I write that, and I watch a little bit of Netflix. I'll watch, but what I found which is interesting is I'm more interested in watching old stuff which I loved than watching new stuff. Because I think in this moment, you want something comfortable and familiar. I don't know if anyone else is like that, but I've definitely found that. Thank you so much for your questions. Now we're going to do 4 more jokes, and then I'll take a final look at the comments, and then I'll do a final joke before the show ends. Okay, so suggestions for the second half. Well, I'm going to start with a suggestion from @Daliso Chaponda, which is a suggestion from me, right? Because occasionally something's so on my mind, I want to talk about it. So the last 2 days, I have talked about the TikTok racists. They're still on my mind. In fact, if I was preparing for a tour, I think I could probably guarantee I would end up doing a 5 to 10 minute routine about these people, because I find it so fascinating. Because if you're not aware, it's a young couple. They put up a little bit of social media, which was very offensive, very racist, right? But they meant it as a joke, maybe. But either way, ruined their future, been expelled from school. One of them's not going to the university they thought they were going to. And it put up so many emotions in me, because on the one hand, I'm angry at them. On the other hand, I feel sorry for them because they're kids. And so I've gone to the next level. Because I can't keep reading about them. So I read their apology, right? And already the girl's apology, one of my friends is like, this is not sincere at all. Because she says in her apology, look, I'm really sorry. I believe blacks are people too. Which is one of the dumbest things you can say in an apology, trying to prove you're not racist. But at the same time, I think this almost proves that she's more of an idiot than somebody hateful, right? Because hateful people know that they need to hide their ignorance, right? Why do you think that they wear those white hoods? They know you can't just bring it out in the open. But the reason why these guys have been in my mind is that they're in a dangerous moment. They're in a dangerous moment where if we keep just piling the hate on them, which they do deserve, they're going to have no option except to go more hateful, right? Because I have a friend. Well, I can't even call him a friend anymore. But there's a comedian who a few years ago, he went on a bit of not even racist, but a bit of a xenophobic rant. Just kind of went on like a little rant about foreigners not being real comedians and women not being real comedians. He just went on a little rant, right? There was a big backlash. It was all over the press, right? And because of that, all of the normal people who would hire him wouldn't hire him anymore. And so he was forced to go more right-wing, right? I don't even think he believes right-wing things. I think that in that moment, he was just frustrated he wasn't on television and the people who were on television happened to be brown women, right? But either way, because now the mainstream has rejected him, said, you're racist, the only people who hire him are the racists, So he's had to be more racist, even though I don't think he is racist at all. I think now he's just trying to make a living. He's like, okay, I guess I got to write a joke about how immigrants are ruining the country because that's my audience. So there is a chance that these TikTokers, right, if there's not an avenue for forgiveness, they're going to have to lean into it, right? They're going to have to be like, okay, I guess we hate black people. They're going to have to go. So I actually think what we need to do is we need to create a way back for people who've done wrong, right? People who've done something highly racist or highly, all the other ways you get canceled. In fact, maybe I'm saying this for myself because look, on occasion, I do misogynistic jokes. I'll admit I go down that avenue. I do. And it is very possible at some point I'm going to piss off feminists so much that there's going to be a movement to cancel Daliso. Then Daliso gets canceled. I still need to make money. I'm going to have to go to the only people who will hire me then. And what? I'm going to be performing for incels and male activists. Please don't send me down that avenue. So please, there needs to be an avenue for forgiveness. I don't know what it should be. I don't know what community service we need to give these people, but we need to come up with it. Probably tomorrow will be when we come up with how these people, what they need to do to get forgiven. Okay, so that my evolving thought on the TikTok racists, which will eventually be a big routine. Okay, next is a suggestion. Oh, it's a suggestion. There are 3 different people. In fact, every day, 3 or 4 people always say, Trump, make a joke about Trump, make a joke about Trump. I don't want to just make it vaguely about Trump. So today I decided to hone in on Trump versus Iran. So even though COVID is taking up most of our time and energy, Trump is still arguing and threatening Iran. And Iran's still arguing and threatening America, right? So just quick summary of things that have gone on, right? COVID comes. Iran, high numbers, asks, let's soften the sanctions against us, please, so that we can get medical equipment and stuff, guys. America is like, hell no. Sanctions, they're staying in put, right? Recently, Iran asked the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, which US is one of the members, hey, can you give us some relief? Because, COVID's really kicking our butt. He's like, hell no, you people are evil, right? So Iran's now frustrated. They start harassing US boats in the Persian Gulf. Either way, it starts escalating. Both of them are swearing at each other. And I'm like, this is not the time for it. The last thing we need in the middle of worrying about COVID and worrying about, getting ill and our lives changing is 2 countries to start shooting at each other. That's the last thing we need. Just calm it down, dial it down, people, or try to settle your differences in different ways, right? I've got a few suggestions of ways that the Americans and the Iranians can kind of hash it out, right? My suggestion number 1, I think of it this way. Because of social isolation, right? Because of distancing, instead of playing football, everybody's just playing FIFA on their computers. Do the same thing. Instead of actually shooting at each other, try to settle it over Call of Duty, right? Just get your top generals to play Call of Duty against each other, and the winner has to make the loser back down. Okay, that's tip number 1. Or tip number 2. Okay, this might be... I think the Ayatollah and Trump, you need to meet somewhere, oil yourself up, and wrestle. You need to wrestle to see who wins. I think that's it. And then there'll be another side way that'll actually win. Because you, Trump, and you, Ayatollah, are not necessarily the best looking people. So once you're oiled up in wrestling, we can have all of your aides and all of the members of your cabinet in the room. And whichever cabinet can watch the wrestling without vomiting, they actually win the discussion. So those are just my suggestions of how to peacefully deal with the escalating Trump versus Iran situation. Okay. Next one. At Anya Aniku asked, it was very sad. She said, make a joke about saying hi wearing a mask, because how will I know if people are smiling at me when I smile at them? I love smiles, and it usually makes me feel good. And I felt bad for you, I felt bad for you. Like, I was going to say it's all in the lines. When people smile, you can, even if they're in a mask, you can see, like, their face moving. But I know it won't please you. So I had a plan that I was going to print out a picture of 3 smiles and hold it up to make you better. But unfortunately, my printer has run out of ink. And because of it's not an essential service, I don't think I'm going to get printer ink for a month or something. So the only thing I can do for you, Anya, is I'm going to smile for you. I'm going to smile for you in 3 different ways, okay? So this is for you to imagine underneath people's masks, okay? Number 1, number 2, and number 3. I hope that helped you. It wasn't a joke, but it was a smile to cheer you up. Oh, gosh. At Kevin Gas asked me to do a joke about bungee jumping. And it got me thinking about 2 things, okay? The first of them is danger sports are definitely a privileged kind of thing to do. Do you know what I mean? Like, nobody whose lives are actually dangerous or actually hard are thinking, hey, let's go jump off a building. Hey, let's go skydiving. I don't think anyone on their way to a food bank is like, you know what we should do on the way to the food bank? Let's go free running. Jump from building to building until we get there. Make it a bit more exciting. They've got all the adrenaline rushes they need, right? But at the same time, a lot of people find living dangerous sexy, right? A lot of girls want bad boys who live dangerously, right? Well, you should come after me, ladies, because my family has a long history of diabetes, and yet I still eat burgers and chocolate bars. So if anyone's living dangerous, it's me, baby! There we go. Hope you enjoyed that joke. At Kevin Gas. Next! Oh, that's the last joke. So before I do the last joke, let me take a final look at the comments. People in the comments, how are you doing? Let's see. WWE would definitely be all over Trump versus Iran. Now, I don't know who would actually win the fight, but I think you're right. Trump would win the pre-wrestling talking where you threaten the opponent. You'd be like, I am the greatest wrestler. I'm the greatest wrestler there's ever been. I think he'd definitely win. Excellent. Let's see. You saw me on BGT a couple of days ago, Ilyas. Well, hello. Glad you enjoyed my act. And now you're watching me on Daliso's Got Talent in my flat. Excellent. What's this? Robin Green says, if they're happy, no bra. If women are smiling when they're glad to see you wearing a mask, to show a smile, they could lift their tops up. If they're happy, no bra. Robin, okay. I won't complain if somebody is flashing me at all. Excellent. Oh, I'm amazing tonight, Ben Holmes. Glad you are enjoying it. Okay, so let's go to our last subject. Our last subject is a little bit different. Some of you may know that I have a radio show. It is called Citizen of Nowhere. So first thing I will say, if you enjoyed the show, there's several ways you can support it. Like, one of the ways is down below. There is a Ko-fi link where you can donate a tip of a few pounds. Up there's a Patreon. You could do it. But there's another thing you can do. I have a radio show. This is a free thing you can do. I have a radio show called Citizen of Nowhere, right? All of it is available for free on BBC Sounds. So wherever you are in the world, you can watch it on BBC Sounds, or you can listen to it on BBC Sounds. Anyway, I am currently writing series 3 of Citizen of Nowhere. So I'm going to end the show with a little bit of a routine that I'm working on for the first episode of series 3 of Citizen of Nowhere on campaign promises, right? Because, you know, when politicians are running, they say anything, right? They lie so much, right? No one ever calls them out on it. I always feel like it's sort of like when a man is trying to pick up a woman at a bar and he's just promising all sorts, like, oh babe, I'll give you 4 orgasms, right? In fact, I'll give you an extra, I'll give you 5, man. It'll be the best night of your life, right? Just making absurd promises that they have no capacity or intention of fulfilling just to get what they want. And then what I also find crazy is no one ever calls them up on it. No one ever brings it up on the next election when they're making new promises. No one's ever like, hey, whatever happened with that thing you were going to promise, you're going to do for us? So I actually think, why don't politicians just fully admit this, lean into it, and just making even more ridiculous promises? Because we all know they're not going to do them. Why don't they actually have some fun? I want to see a politician come out and say, okay, if I get elected, I will wipe out all debts and you can punch your creditors right in the face, or say all diseases will be cured when I am in power. And furthermore, I will make them reshoot the final season of Game of Thrones in a way that makes everybody happy. And I will cure cancer by punching it in the face. Just go absurd, right? And then the other thing is, I say this as a joke, but I started looking into people who in the past have made truly magnificent campaign promises. So these are a few of the nuttiest campaign promises in history. So in 1938, in France, somebody called Ferdinand, how do you say Ferdinand? Either way, however you say his name, Ferdinand Lopp in France was running. And these are the kind of promises he made. Eliminate poverty after 10 p.m. Yeah, he was fine with poverty all morning and all afternoon, but after 10 p.m. he was like, no poverty. We're going to wipe out anybody poor at that time. And I don't know what happens in the morning. They take their money back, so they're poor again, right? Second one, he wanted to nationalize brothels, right? And just, I have no joke for that. I think that's a great idea. We need more nationalized brothels. And he also, this was his big way to save France's power problems. He was going to make joggers run on treadmills to power electricity, right? This is a fabulous fellow, Ferdinand Lopp, who did not win the election. And then the other person who I thought was a wonderful figure in history was Rodney Forte. In 1968, this was a New Orleans guy who was running for mayor on one promise, that he would get gorillas for the New Orleans Zoo. Yeah, he didn't have a running mate, he had a primate. He just wanted to get gorillas. And this was all he would mention in every speech. And then he started giving out plastic gorillas to try and get people's vote. But this is the weird thing. He gave white people a white gorilla. He gave black people a black gorilla. What's his brain? Does he think that black people only like black things, right? Because I'm black, everything I own is black. My phone is black, but like my shirts. I'm wearing a blue shirt. I'm a bad black person. I should only be wearing black. What world is he living in that white people only like white things? Give them white gorillas, because if they got a black gorilla, they'd be like, ah! Either way, I should not mock Rodney Forte, because unlike the other politicians I mentioned, he actually made true on his promise. Even though he did not win the elections, he got 2 gorillas and got them put in the New Orleans Zoo. And to all of you, I would like to make a final insincere promise to end the show from me to you. If you keep tuning in to the Coronacast, which is going to be every day at 9 p.m., I promise you it will be the funniest thing on the internet, right? Funnier than any other show, funnier than any other comedian there's ever been. I promise you, those are the jokes I'm going to write. Have a great night. Stay safe. This has been Daliso Chaponda.